starting with. And as I mentioned, your views and comments are welcome all the time. Look for us on our social media handles, Joy News on TV, on both Facebook and Twitter. We will be glad to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. My name is Francis Aban. Once again, you're welcome. Now, the country is pushed to prevent a repeat of the flooding that killed roughly 200 Ghanaians at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle 2 years ago is receiving encouraging results. Desilting, dredging, public education, and other initiatives have led to a significant reduction in the city's flood situation. There's, however, a warning to those who dispose of refuse into gutters and other drainage systems. Joining us is Jennifer Kramwa reports as the country joins the international community to mark World Disaster Prevention Day in Accra.
It's been over a year since the twin disasters of flood and fire on June 3, and I'm back at Circle precisely over the Odona River, which has been desilted, but that time it was so choked with filth that resulted in the loss of over 200 lives right here in the capital city. Now today, Ghana joins the world to mark International Day for the Reduction of Disasters, and the theme is Live to Tell. I've been speaking to the NADMO coordinator, Brigadier General Francis Vib Sanzir, and finding out how NADMO is working with its stakeholders, with government bodies, with the citizens to, as it were, give the people of Ghana a reason to live to tell.
Working to prevent the disasters, there are so many ways and there are so many things that NADMO is doing. We work with so many other stakeholders, the city authorities, for example, AMA, we work with AMA, and of course all other districts and the municipal assemblies, we're working with them, and we try to identify what the hazards or the risk. We do risk mapping to know what are the risks in those communities all across the country. And when that is identified, we try to do a sensitization of the people in the community as for them to understand what causes the disaster in that area and how we can do it to prevent it. Waste management is a serious contributing factor to flooding in the cities, and we have worked with AMA in particular in within the city of Accra to do the dredging of the Odo river. It was so much silted that it cannot carry the volume of water that comes from the upstream. Right now we can see it is somehow properly dredged, and that could be a serious contributing factor to the less floods that we had this year.
Prevention is teamwork, and I've been speaking to the Chief Director at the Ministry of Interior, Mrs. Adelaide Anokumi, who explained the successes and challenges faced by the ministry as it seeks to reduce and prevent the incidences of disasters in the country.
Sensitization programs are held all over, but you might not be able to determine, that's why it's called a disaster, where it will strike, where the rainfall will have a different pattern because of climatic change and other issues. There's a possibility that Cape Coast had not been targeted as a flood-prone area, but then this year, when the rains came, it happened. So there's a need to re-strategize for Cape Coast and Tripoli. Now we have a strategic plan, and also the sensitization programs have been very, very, very active and ongoing. So I think that to a very large extent, it has helped us at least in addressing the Accra perennial floods. You could see that at least this year we've not had that situation.
Floods, earthquakes, each are natural disasters, but the potential aftermath after such disasters is the threat of disease outbreaks. Miss Ruth Arthur, who's the head of epidemics at NADMO, explains.
Along the beach, along the coastal community from Greater Accra region all the way to Central region, we continue to do education on cholera, flood preparedness and all that, because Unfortunately, if you go along the coast, you see that open defecation is a practice. You get it? And people have several beliefs for doing those things. But you need to make people aware that open defecation are the causes of some of the cholera outbreaks that we experience in this country. So we are doing continuous education along the coast. And in Greater Accra particularly, where we have normally records the highest number of cholera cases in this country, we have gone through all the sub-metros. We've gone through the sub-metros, we've gone through the districts with the help of the district chief executives, with the help of our district coordinators, with the help of assemblymen, with chiefs and community leaders. We are doing sensitization on flood preparedness, on cholera prevention. You get it, and other areas of interest that will help minimize the impact of flooding.
And now for some food for thought. Today is the International Day for the Reduction of Disasters. We've heard from NADMO, we've heard from government, but there's one more stakeholder we have to put the spotlight on: you. What are you doing as part of your contribution to reduce or prevent disasters in your community? For Joy News, Jennifer Kwamwa.
So let's have a quick conversation on this. In fact, when it comes to issues of public safety and our preparedness for disasters, we know that the Bureau of Public Safety has been quite vocal in that regard. We can speak to Nana Akwada. He's the executive director for that group. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. Yes, today may be the day when we all begin to think about disaster management. But in the past 1 year, and in your assessment, have we done enough in this regard?
Well, let me say a very good afternoon to your viewers. My understanding is that the National Disaster Management Organization chose to mark the World Day for Prevention of Disasters today. I think it's very good that as we mark such an important day on the global calendar, we draw people's attention to the likelihood or the possibilities of the ills of natural disaster in our country, and how best we as a people are prepared in, as it were, minimizing the losses that as a nation we would incur in the event of natural disasters like this. That said, I think that in the past couple of years, one disaster of a natural character that has befallen Ghana has usually been that of flooding. We all remember June 3rd, may their souls rest in peace. Remember as far back as 1995, the losses we had and all. It will be a bit immature for anyone to suggest that we have indeed done so much to prevent a recurrence of June 3rd. We, especially more so when the committee that was set to investigate June 3rd and prefer recommendations, that report is still in the bosom of government. We still have gotten snippets of such recommendations. It will be very difficult for us to say whether, as a nation, we have done so much to prepare for such disasters, or so much to, if you like, minimize the losses of such disasters, or so much to ensure that subsequent occurrences, we will have programs and procedures, have the appropriate multi-agency cooperation to ensure that we secure lives and property when disaster strikes.
Okay, now, with what you just said,
the only thing that we can stick to now will be to wait for any such occurrence. Then we can do a proper evaluation
of it. But the thing is this, Mr. Akwada, much as you say that the assessment will have to be based on what happens, what about our preparedness? Because we always say that if we have a body like NADMO in place, it's supposed to not only react when a disaster occurs, but prevent it from happening in the first place. You'll recall that even in the eastern region, there's been a lot of flooding. In fact, it's now become, in the words of news people, not sexy anymore to talk about flooding stories because it happens virtually every time. So are we doing enough on the preventive end than even allowing it to happen before we react?
Well, like I said, enough must be situated within a certain context. And the context is the report that the June 3rd Incident Disaster the June 3rd Investigative Committee had put in place. That is, we can only situate enough within that context. And for which reason we are unable to, because the report is not made public. We do not have the report. What we have is aspects of the report. To that extent, we are unable to actually speak to it that we have done enough or not. But that said, we must understand that NADMO itself, in the last few years, has misplaced itself within the scheme of things. NADMO is not an entity that should be acting in the event of disaster or acting outside of disaster. NADMO is largely supposed to be a multi-agency coordination body. NADMO is supposed to bring together the Ghana Navy. It's supposed to bring together the National Fire Service. It's supposed to bring together National Ambulance. And then together they create a framework to deal with the aspects that they will deal with aspects of natural disasters.
But even on that score, has that happened? Have they even done that?
Well, that is for NADMO to answer, because in any country where we have a body like NADMO, they have acted as a coordinating body. But in my understanding and in my observation, when NADMO, sometimes they run out of logistics, and you ask what logistics, because NADMO should not be receiving logistics. They should be pulling together institutions that will provide this logistics. It's NADMO who should say that we need a national buffer stock, to supply X amount of maize or corn to this disaster area affected by disaster. We need the Ghana Navy to be here because there's flooding here, and we need the Navy to put in place X, Y, Z. The NADMO is supposed to be just the center of a network. And to the extent that NADMO says, no, I want to procure my own helicopter, I want to procure my own bed, I want to procure my own this, then it means that they left the coordination job into areas where we have to leave for specialized bodies. Like the ambulance services there's no need for us to equip NADMO with ambulance anymore. We have the Ghana Navy. There's no need to take the workforce of NADMO and make them into a specialized naval body. So basically, that we are looking forward to that time when NADMO will come to a realization of this mandate of itself, that we have to just coordinate. It should be a multi-agency coordination, and they would center around NADMO, and NADMO will be the master chessman, pushing knobs and pushing items in place. It's not for NADMO to procure get their own helicopter and get their own vest and all
equipment to do the job.
From where we sit, we think that NADMO, its job must be purely coordination and must gear more towards preventing.
All right. Thank you, sir, for your time. Nanaya Akwada is the Executive Director for the Bureau of Public Safety, sharing his thoughts with us on how, as a country, we should be dealing with disasters. Now, let's head to Asukore Mampong. And it's a very simple story, but an interesting one. The MP is blaming the contractor for the poor state of roads in that area. Well, residents of Ababo and other communities say they are fed up with the promises by authorities to fix the bad road linking them to Asukore Mampong. Road users have lived with a very deplorable state of that 2-kilometer stretch for years. They accuse authorities of taking them for granted by persistent promises to put the road in shape for votes, only to neglect them after elections. Prince Apia, my colleague, visited the community and now reports.
The Asukore Mampong stretch is one of the busy roads in the Asawase constituency, one of the worst roads in the Ashanti region. Early this year, the stretch was graded with heaps of sand deposited on the road in anticipation of continued work which never happened. The potholes are back, even deeper and more damaging as some of them become trenches. Motorists, both private and commercial, stressfully meander their way to their destination on a daily basis, exposing their vehicles to frequent breakdown.
Every week, over 5 times. Tomorrow spring na debia we had my week behind we have maintenance baby no na me nsakula okanya muntaka wa sawaba kwan waja kogu on mabla ha na ye ukọ ayi boban a baby kura wa ye kokonte no hata wo ho ka kura mfa wono
uwa we hwe se ekwan ma ka bia pake wono so omu yeduma oso ese esra MP ni se esra so wonti ekwan ma o ma begidam embeto obi akas ni fi kwan obetiye kwan yiye.
Some residents who spoke to Joy News say the condition of the road will certainly influence their voting decision.
Bino ese wonhwe na ombeni efse wanyeni ya enukura no ye adwini first NDs for the say ya dan MPP for
the road is no good. It's not good at all. It has been for about 8 years now. It's not.
Member of Parliament for Asawase, Alhaji Mutaka Mubarak, says work will commence on the road later this month.
Nightmare that we have. I mean, the contractor over 2 years is still dindling, but happily, very happily, it's been terminated. A different contractor has been given. I'm very optimistic that before the end of this month, people will see action on that road because that's one of the main backbone roads in this community, and it's so bad and it's creating so much embarrassment for us because we've done so much within the community. Yet that main track is bad.
This is the Abuabo Asokoro Mampon Road, which has been in deplorable state for the past 8 years. The state of this road has caused a lot of damages to so many vehicles that ply this route. If nothing is done about this road, the worst could happen. My name is Prince Apia. For joining you.
Right, so that's a report from the Ashanti region. Clearly, a lot of issues will influence people's votes in this year's elections. We'll keep an eye on developments across the country. We'll go for a short break. Now, when we come back, we'll do some local politics. We'll head to Domi Kwabenya, where it's beginning to look as though developments will determine whether it will be Adjoa Safo or Nuruddin Mohammed. Details after the break. Stay with us.